Regis with Nextier Power. Alongside the Nextier Power team, I'd like to welcome you to the April 2018 Nextier Power Dialogue. To everyone attending for the first time, welcome. And to our regular attendees, we appreciate the value that you see in our monthly dialogues. Welcome. This edition of the Nextier Power Dialogue is themed, Can Meters Save NESI? There's a popular belief that replacing the estimated billing method with prepaid metering will improve the efficiency of collections in the sector. However, there's also the trend that with the increased popularity of metering, there has also been an increase in bypassing meters as a means of electricity theft. This dialogue will discuss pragmatic solutions to efficient metering in the sector in a total effort to solve the financial viability problem of the sector. We're excited by the caliber of people that we have convinced to talk on this topic tonight. And to take us through this event, we have in our midst the General Manager, Strategy and Corporate Planning, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. He holds a BSc with honors in economics from the University of Buckingham. He's a chartered accountant and a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's welcome Wade Logan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to the April edition of the Nextier Power Dialogue. And it's an interesting one because the topic we have to discuss today says, can meters save NESI? To assist us do justice to the topic, I will introduce our able panelists. I will say a bit about them and I'll encourage them to assume the well-deserving seat on the stage. I think I'll start in the sitting order. So we have representing the Vice Chairman of NERC, Engineer Sanusi Gaba, who is Vice Chairman and Commissioner on Market, Competition and Rates. Representing him today is the Commissioner, Finance and Management Services, also of NERC, Mr. Nathan Rogers Shati. You're welcome, sir. Please take a seat as I read your brief profile. Okay, you can take the extreme. This isn't the extreme end. Thank you, sir. Mr. Rogers, before his appointment as Commissioner, he was a management consultant based in Abuja. He's an accountant by training with over 26 years experience in accounting, tax audit, finance, and business management. He also had a stint with ExxonMobil, where he held various positions of responsibilities in accounting, financial reporting, business services, controls, planning, and finance, most of which were in senior management positions. He was a former Commissioner of Finance also for Adamawa State, where he ensured a well-functioning public financial management system, which promotes fiscal discipline, optimal allocation of resources, and value delivered through efficient and effective use of resources in the implementation of strategic priorities of the state government. That's a mouthful. He's a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and is also an alumnus of the prestigious INSEAD Business School. And thank you very much, Mr. Shati. We are happy to have you here. Order is Mr. Kola Balu. Mr. Kola Balu, please, can you assume your seat also on stage? Mr. Balogo is an astute engineer and a member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. He's a versatile and seasoned engineer with over 2 decades of experience. He has in the past worked with Microchip, where he rose to a senior management position. On leaving Microchip, he set up Momas Systems Nigeria Limited. in 1995 as an information technology service provider. I think a year after that, from his versatility, he was able to resolve a technical problem on the management systems of the then Nigerian Electric Power Authority, NEPA, which later became PHCN. Now, the solution hitherto necessitated deployment of experts from South Africa. So I think he did something quite notable there, and perhaps opened up the opportunities for him to set up MoMA systems in the power sector as a robust and formidable solutions provider. His commitment emboldens the vision of Nigeria to make it a manufacturing center among the Committee of Nations. Thank you very much, Mr. Kola Balogun. We're happy to have you here. Also from NEMSA, we have the Chief Electrical Inspector of the Federation, Engineer Peter Eweso. So, Mr. Eweso, Engineer Eweso, I beg your pardon, is a chartered electrical engineer and an author of the engineering textbook, widely used in the power industry and tertiary institutions, titled Practical Electrical Systems Installation, Work and Practice. He authored both the 2003 edition and the 2010 editions. He's a Korean registered engineer and a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Engineers. He's also a fellow of Occupational Safety and Health Association of the United Kingdom, and also a member of the Nigerian Institute of Safety Professionals and the Nigerian Computer Society. Prior to this appointment, he worked in the Federal Ministry of Power as a field inspector engineer and rose to the rank of deputy director with this organization and head of Inspectorate Department of Electrical Inspection Department. He established and headed both Sokoto and Benin Electrical Inspectorate field offices. He was the vice chairman and member of the expert panels that developed, drafted, and produced the distribution code and health and safety code of the industry for NERC. I think that's very notable. He is a recipient of the prestigious Presidential Civil Service Merit Award in 2012. Engineer Eweso holds an HND and BEng, Electrical Electronics Engineering, and PGDs with distinction and MSc in Computer Science from the University of Benin. Can we please give him a round of applause? Thank you very much for honoring the invitation. I think we have a very big topic before us this evening, and it will be interesting to see, the comments that will come from here and how we will be able to do justice to this. The topic is, can meters save NESI? And a little bit of context. We don't have a DISCO represented on the panel as a panelist. However, I work for a DISCO, and quite thankfully, I don't have to speak to this topic because we have our panelists here who we trust will do justice to it. So, for all your questions, we know where to direct them to our able panelists. I think it would be helpful to hear them speak for 10 minutes, each on the topics which has been pre-assigned to each of them. So I would say, can we start this time with Engineer Eweso, please? So can you kindly, just for 10 minutes so that we all are able to keep to time as we normally do at this occasion, speak to the role of NEMSA, all right, in the race for sustainable meters within the NESI.
Thank you very much. I think when I first got this, I saw, can meters save NESI? And to me, the answer is in affirmative, but it has to be effective metering. Why do we say effective metering? If you don't have quality meters of the right accuracy and type, and you have all manner of meters that are installed, then you find out that it's not actually going to be of any use, of any help into the industry, because if you don't have efficiency in collection, then the liquidity issue within the power industry will continue to linger on. because the leakages will all be there. That's why I said effective metering. Effective metering means that those meters will have actually been properly tested. That's what we call type tests. Type tests are for meters that are coming to the country for the first time. In NEMSA's laboratory, where we have in Lagos, Oshodi, Kaduna, and Port Harcourt, we carry out type tests on them to find out whether this type of meters the person is trying to introduce, either is manufacturing them or is importing them, will meet the environmental condition of Nigeria. Not somebody just buying a meter off the shelf and bring it to the country, and you find out that those meters will not actually perform efficiently. We know temperature plays a very large role in affecting electronics components. So we need to check out those meters that are coming. We test their durability, we check their temperature quality, we test the quality and check the accuracy. If, for example, you bring a meter to Nigeria and the temperature specification is 30 degrees centigrade, for sure, such meters will not work effectively because it will affect the readings of the meter. As soon as those electronic components become charged in terms of heat and whatever it is, then the meter in itself will not deliver what the disco is supplying and what the consumer are consuming. They are not going to be balanced in terms of supply and consumption. So after these meters have been type tested and we are sure of the quality of that particular meter, we issue what we call a type test certification. That type test certification shows that that meter can now be used in Nigeria. Thereafter, when you now are going to supply a large quantity of those meters, we equally want to verify and find out the quality we have approved for that particular manufacturer for the supplier. Is it the same quality it's bringing? Because there are tendency for a manufacturer and supplier to produce a very sound quality meter that they have brought for you to test. But when it's not supplying, it supply meters that are not of that same quality. But during routine check, routine test, we're able to find out those specifications that have been approved if they are met. Thereafter, we equally ensure that we follow up this meter deployment by ensuring that all the meters that are passed through our national meter test stations are actually put with a seal. That seal is the only sign to show that this particular meter is being tested and is being certified and it has actually been sealed. And this is what will give the consumers that confidence to say this meter has passed through NEMSA. But beyond that too, you find out that installation of energy meters is a very serious issue within the industry. Because even when the meter is quite good, the meter is of the right quality, the right standard specification, if the meter is not well positioned in the position where it has been installed, there are a lot of parameters that are affected, that meter will not deliver the type of power that the consumer has actually is consuming. And that's why we always have apathy. And many people have come to us to say, look, our meter is faulty, our meter is bad. Recently, if you remember, the National Assembly passed a resolution and said we have some meters, one of the manufacturers has supplied, the meters are not good, they are bad. NEMSA have been tested. What we found out is that by the time we sent our men to the field, actually we did this in conjunction with the regulator. When we got to the site, we find somebody has installed a 3-phase meter, and the person has passed only a single-phase supply into this meter. Basically, you cannot have an efficient energy supply and energy consume, and so the collection will actually not equally be right. That's why I talked today about effective and efficient metering system. If you go beyond that too, you still find out that there are a lot of activities of miscreants where people will tell you that we can remove something from the meter, and when we do that, you won't pay the right bill. And that is why we feel that the regulator has actually done well by bringing anti-theft regulation. But beyond that, I still think that the DISCO 2, in their metering solution, should try to build in some kind of schemes, devices that can actually serve as deterrent. Like in the UK, for example, you have some meters. Once you are trying to tamper with it, you pay more, and that will actually make you not to try to do that. So there are a lot of things that NEMSA follows up and ensure that these things are actually properly done. If you remember the issue of JOS, we have to issue an order to stop them from further deploying. But what we found out was that The meters, after we have tested, were actually fine, they were okay, but there was communication gap between the disco and the consumer, because you want to come and replace previous meters and put new meters, and we have not actually explained to them why you are doing it. And so when they were changing them, they see it as kind of somebody trying to play some kind of game, and then they took it off. But it's now become so difficult for us to convince them to say, look, this is what has happened, and that issue is still lingering on, because after we've gone to test, we quickly find out the installations were not properly done. You place 6-7 meters on a wooden pole, and you know what are the consequences of such. And that's why you have the apathy today between the supplier and the consumer. And to remove this apathy, I think we need to have effective and efficient metering in areas of ensuring the right materials are used, the quality is right, the installations are proper, people are well communicated with, and then we know exactly what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that was very, very well neatly delivered. Thanks for harping on a few points. I think it would be helpful to expand on those as the conversation progresses. But I think nicely following on from that, we have Mr. Kola Balogun, okay, who's representing MEMCO here. So we already have heard from the regulator side in terms of ensuring integrity of meters. But let's also hear from the meter manufacturer. What's really are the issues? What are the realities that face you as a local meter manufacturer in the country?
Thank you. When I equally saw the topic of this Nextier Power, I was so glad that this topic came up. Can meter save NESI? It's affirmative, yes. It can save NESI. Okay. So I will speak from manufacturer point of view and from practical point of view. I've been in the sector for quite some time now, more than 2 decades, and I know exactly what are the issues with the downstream efficiency collection. We have to look at downstream from distribution substation. If you look at most of our distribution substation today, it's very appalling. You see some of those distribution substations, you see fuses not in alignment, you see either a cable or a proper fuse or chartered kind of cable. You see a cable that is not properly terminated. All these aggregate errors are technical losses on their own. So the viability of that substation is already questionable. No matter how efficient meter you now put at the consumer premises, you cannot account for a proper energy from distribution perspective, because your trading point is that distribution substation. Now, despite that, all meters goes into NEMSA for certification. All this meter has a feedback mechanism, because if you look at the collection platform today, there has been a lot of misalignment of both revenue collection and settlement. In the reality, most prepaid meter today, if you buy a prepaid credit, for instance, 2,000, you might not use 2,000 at the end of the month. But at that month, it will show at the collection platform that which revenue has come. By next month, you are not buying credits. It means there will be a nosedive at that point in time. So, at the months where you have sufficient revenue, there is no corresponding energy utilization with the money collected. And that's why we need to scale up our meter standard to have a feedback mechanism which is called smart meters. If we have smart meter and we account for a proper substation, that is, we don't just put meter at the substation. Let us put a meter that first of all will compensate for reactive load, will reduce leakages as much as possible. because there are tolerance of leakages we can permit within the engineering concept. But once there's improper cabling within a line, there will be a lot of leakages. That's the technical losses. Once we meter appropriately, we meter each of upriser, put reactive load compensator, put a breaker rather than conventional fuses. Then we will have a proper substation that viability can be established. However, if we now have 100% metering at the consumer premises, and these metering devices has a feedback mechanism such that even if you use, you buy 2,000 or 5,000 credit at your prepaid, at the end of the month, the meter transmits the consumed power to the collection portal. So what they are going to charge the money you have paid is the amount of energy you have used. So that will give a revenue apportioning to the market operator. The rest of the money will be kept aside because it's like overpayment on the part of that, because we need to establish viability of our substation. Irrespective of the tariff we are using, we need to establish that, because that is the trading point. It's very important, because I discovered that there is a lot of education gap between the consumer and the service provider, which is the DISCO, and that's why we are trying to collaborate with NEMSA to provide inspectors across the entire country so that they can educate consumer, because most of the leakages too are within the consumer premises. That's what they call arc leakage in each of the premises of the house. If you wire your house and it's not well arted, there will be leakage current into that and you'll be paying for it. But at the same time, you'll be thinking your meter is running fast. But it is your wiring that is resulting to that. If you have improper load within your distribution network of a house, and one phase is overloaded, one phase is not overloaded, you will equally be paying penalty for it. These are issues of clarity in terms of standardization. We need to upscale in terms of our metering deployment. If we really want to get all these causes of improper revenue collection to sleep, we need to trade from distribution substation, clean up our distribution substation to ensure that minimum leakages are observed. Then we have 100% in each of the distribution substation, and we equally have a feedback where we are getting energy consumed by each of the consumer as against energy purchase, so that we can do financial reconciliation every month to ensure that what consumers are used is what they paid for, besides standardization of meter. Because even if the meter is standard and we have issues along the transaction sample, we will still not have efficient revenue collection. Those are things that I've observed. So every stakeholder in the industry needs to wake up and establish viability between the substation and consumer premises. At that point in time, we'll be able to see whether there is justification for various tariff classification or not. Those are things that I have observed. We need to create more inspectors to be able to educate consumers whenever they have problem of discontent about the standard of meter they have in the app. It's very important, because that will help a lot of things. And by the time they get to their premises, they will be able to do a due diligence on their wiring, educate them, and tell them, look, this is where you are paying excessive because your house is not well grounded. Those are things that I have observed over a period of my tenure in the industry. Also, it is important for each of both the NEMSA and the NEC to come out with what means of efficiency, infrastructure do we want to use to collect data from the meter. Are we talking of power line carrier? Our network is not that robust sufficiently for us to be able to get a proper feedback. If everybody use BlackBerry, everybody use WhatsApp, these are data services of the back end of a GSM operator. So we can as well ride on that same platform. All our meter only needs some few data in the month to send notification of energy consumed to the central point. So we can ride on GPRS and use all our meters should be GPRS enabled, sent feedback into the collection center. With that, we'll be able to do financial reconciliation, energy reconciliation, to be able to establish whether all these our tariffs are viable or not viable. However, from the manufacturer perspective, manufacturing meter in Nigeria give us an edge because we are not developing local content. We are not creating more jobs for young engineers. We are now improving as to importing a closed box. A closed box is something that they have produced, we don't know what is in it. Here, we now design, we now make sure that we improve every day to ensure that we meet the standard, both in NEMSA and international standard. If we don't patronize Nigeria made meter, how do we grow as a nation? It's very important. And because we have regulators that will challenge our design, then why can't you challenge us and say, look, I will want to query this your meter. But if it met all the standardization, then they should increase the percentage from 30% to 50%.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kola. You can feel the passion, of an entrepreneur in there. But we would have, a more thorough discussion session after this. But we're also itching to hear from our commissioner, able commissioner, Mr. Shatti. Mr. Shatti, what is the role of NERC in all of this?
Thank you very much, Nextier, for having me here. Let me first look at the question that is being asked, or the reason why we are here today discussing. Can meters save NESI? I think I don't want to take that simplistic view of saying yes or no, affirmative or whatever the word is, because I think it's too simplistic. Okay. The truth of the matter is that the challenges we have today in NESI is beyond metering. Metering is key, it's important, but we have other issues as well that could affect the survival of this industry. Now, you can have meters in every room, or every customer should have meters, but then what is the use of that meter if it doesn't have enough energy? What is the use of that meter if there is a problem with the transmission line that should give the distributor that power that he needs to give a consumer, or a distributor who is having a distribution company, who is having an issue with his networks? He will not be able to provide the energy that somebody needs, despite the fact that you have metering. So what I'm just saying is that, yes, meters are important for NESI. It's actually going to help to improve the situation we are facing today. But it's not going to, quote unquote, say, yes, it will save NESI. Like the engineer Peter said, it's not just enough to provide meters. We came out with a regulation. How well implemented will that regulation be? How effective and efficient will the metering be? So there are a lot of things that need to be done for you to say, oh yes, metering is important, meters are important in NESI, and it would help in saving NESI. That's my point. Now, let me just say something about what we did as commissioners, new commissioners in NERC. When we joined NERC in February precisely, 2017. After our inauguration, of course, before then we were nominated to the Senate. It took time for us to get cleared. But eventually when that was done, we had read a lot of theories. We have had a lot of things about power in Nigeria. We read all literatures that are available. And we thought we were ready and fully equipped to come and face the task ahead. When we got in, we realized that things are not the way they seem from outside. And sometimes when I hear people make comments, today when you have problems in this country, people become experts. You have power experts. People are not talking about fuel now because there's fuel. But if there is a queue on the street, in the filling stations for 2-3 days, you will have experts in the oil industry. So when we came in, one of the major issues that is glaring to everybody is the liquidity issue in the industry. There is no money. But then when we sat down, we realized that liquidity is just a symptom of a myriad of issues that the industry is facing. And we had to sit down and say, what are really the top ones, the major ones that is affecting the liquidity crisis or affecting the liquidity issues in the industry. Now, we said, what is the number of customers that we have in this country today that are on the billing platform of the discos? The number we got was about 6 million. 6 million as of December 2016, out of about 170 million Nigerians and probably 20 to 30 million homes. How can that be? So there's something fundamentally wrong with even the customers that we are saying we have. Now that is an issue. The next thing is that people are complaining. Consumers or customers, we call them, are dissatisfied. There is apathy. People are complaining, estimated billing, crazy billing. Somebody gets a bill of 20,000 today, next month he gets 50,000. The following month it comes down to 30. There is no consistency, and the energy he consumes has not changed. So that is an issue. Because the customer who is paying for this bill, if he's not happy, he won't pay. And so it affects the liquidity issues that we have. Then the next thing is that we realize that there is mad indiscipline by operators in the industry, especially the discos. Like the example you gave about collection. Discos will collect money from customers, and then they decide how much money they are going to remit to the upstream, to the JCOs, to the service providers. So that's an industry. Those are the things that just compounded the liquidity issues we have in that industry. So what we did was to address those issues one by one. Right now, we've asked the discos, of course, they said they've been doing customer enumeration, but we've been on the discos, giving them strategies on how enumeration should be done, because the enumeration is the most important thing. How can you sell a product to somebody you don't know? You have to enumerate your customer, and enumeration is not just counting the streets. You have to go and find out in that street that is connected to the transformer, there is somebody here who has a meter. How many houses are here? What amount of energy does he consume? So that you'll be able to provide him and know what he consumes, and you'll be able to appropriately provide the meters that he needs. Now, we also went further to say, for the customer apathy and dissatisfaction and the estimated billing, we have to ensure that there is meter for everybody. And that is the reason why we are here today. So let me just dwell a little bit on the issue of meters. We realize that one of the best things we can do, even with a meager number of customers, is to provide them with meters. In 2016, by December, we had about 6.1 million customers on the billing platform of distribution companies. Out of that, about 53% have meters. Remember I said metering is enumeration now has taken place. So by December 2017, we now have about 8 million. But the metering of the 8 million is about 42%. So what that means is that there's an increasing gap in the metering. So we said there are issues. We have to bridge the gap of the metering. We have to ensure that customers are satisfied, are happy, they know the energy they are consuming, and they know what they are paying for. And then we also need to make sure that there's transparency, because the estimated billing thing that the discos are doing, they are even flouting the regulation of the commission. The way they are doing it is not how they were expected to do it, but they do it anyway and send all kinds of things to people. So we said there has to be transparency. So we sat down and said we have to come up with a metering solution. We asked the discos, why are you not providing meters to your customers? The simple answer is, oh, we don't have cost-reflective tariff. Oh, we don't have money to go and invest in meters. Our balance sheets have been impaired because we now have a lot of tariff shortfalls lying in our balance sheet. We said, okay, fine. This may not be solved immediately. So what we are going to do is that let's look for somebody, an independent party, who will take over the responsibility of metering. So we said we will come up with a regulation that will take that responsibility from the distribution companies and now have independent parties providing meter for everybody. They will have the muscle, they will have clean balance sheets, they can go to the bank, they can bring investors into the industry to invest in metering. So we believe that by bringing metering, we are going to eliminate estimated billing. Now I just slow down because in reality you cannot eliminate estimated billing, because even when you give everybody meters, there will be situations whereby you have to estimate billing. But at least you reduce it to the minimum, whereby it is done in the proper way. So if we eliminate that by metering, then we also ensure that there is revenue assurance for the discos. Because today, there are so many people that are just using the energy, the discos don't even know. So if you're able to provide meters for those people that you've already recognized in your billing platform, at least it improves your revenue. Then we also believe that it creates an opportunity for new interests, for investors who will come in with their money independent and then competitively provide meters. That is the word. Because what we are trying to do with this regulation is to ensure that there is a competitive procurement process to acquire or to deploy meters that are cheap for consumers or for customers. So that it's not an issue of people just bringing in anything and thinking, oh, it's another field day. Now, with that, we believe that we are going to create a major solution for NESI. So we went and did a lot of consultation, consulted stakeholders, consulted consumers, consulted with the meter manufacturers in Nigeria. We also did that with financiers, with banks. As a matter of fact, in one of our consultations, we specifically just made sure that the consultation is on financing, because we realized that without proper structuring of the regulation to provide money, it's dead on arrival. And so what we decided to do is to get bankers. Tell us, what kind of model do you think will work? Because, already Nigerians, whether you like it or not, do not trust the discos. There are evidences of them being unable to pay their invoices. So no MAP provider will really want to tie his revenue to the disco. So we have to come up with some ways of making sure that their revenues are ring-fenced and they are assured of that. So we did that. And so what happened is that after the consultations and the rest of them, we came up with the MAP regulation that we now have, which came into effect in April this year, 3rd April. Now, of course, when you try to solve a bigger problem, you could create a smaller one. I mean, it's only when you solve a problem and then create a bigger one that it becomes a problem. But if you try to solve a bigger problem and you have some little ones here and there, you can be able to attend to them. What I'm saying is that the MAP, Meter Asset Provider Regulation, is there to provide what we're talking about today, to save NESI in one way or the other. But there could be issues. And there were even some observations that people made. And I just want to take that by way of rounding up, just to pick some of the issues that people raised or concerns. Who takes ownership of the meter, or who owns the meter? Because the regulation, the MAP regulation says meter is owned by the MAP. Right now, the discos own meters and the rest of them. And I've seen even articles written about that. I said, look, what is the issue about ownership of meter? Meter is not an asset that people want to own. It's an equipment for you to read, to be able to account for the energy you're consuming and pay for it. So in reality, it's not like a car. You cannot write in your will that I have a meter for that's the truth. So the issue really is that I think the reason why people talk about ownership is because of the way we handle meter in Nigeria. The discos have been unable to provide meters. And because people are yearning for meters, people are now looking for meters. And then it now becomes, sometimes they will do preferential treatment to allocate, to give meters to people. So a consumer or a customer will now say, to hell with you, provided if they can allow me, I want to buy my own meter, I'm owning. He is not saying he wants the meter to own it like a car. He just wants an instrument that will help measure the energy he's consuming. So the ownership thing is not really, whoever owns it is not the issue. I think the key issue is that people need an instrument that shows them how much they consume, and they can be able to pay and be happy to pay for it. Now, when you look at that, you will realize that in the our metering regulation that we already have, it says that the discos own the meter. And the reason is simple. The person that buys the meter, technically you say you own it. And the discos, by the virtue of the performance agreement they signed with PPE, they have a responsibility to procure meter and install meter for customers. And on that, they are going to earn a return. That is the way the system is. We brought out the metering regulation, and that is how it is. But the disco is not even into meter asset procurement business. It's just an instrument. He too wants to be able to be sure of his revenue. So he owns the meter. Based on that, today we brought out a regulation and said the MAP is going to provide this meter. Remember, meter, from what the engineers told us, has a lifespan of about between 10 to 15 years. So we said, okay, we need somebody who will bring money that will finance that meter for 10 to 15 years. And that was the reason why we had to involve the CBN to say that, look, you guys will have that money that you can provide for potential MAPs to have access to long-term financing at low interest rate. And we've been able to get CBN's concurrence and acceptance that they are going to support the industry in that line. So now, if an MAP buys a meter or provides a meter, he will need to recover his money over 10 years. Before you fully repay your meter, it means the meter belongs to the MAP. When you finish paying, then of course it reverts to the wall where it's fixed. Within this MAP regulation as well, we said for customers who desire to buy their own meter, they don't want all this story about MAP, they have the cash. We said you can go to an MAP with the understanding of your distribution company and buy your meter, pay for it upfront. What will happen is that you are not going to receive any bill or you are not going to pay any money for meters. All you are going to do is for energy. At that point, technically you can say the man owns it, but the regulation says that when you are leaving that house, you cannot take it. And the reason is simple. For the engineers that are here, it creates a lot of complications. And so it's like a house. If you fix a door in your house, when you are leaving the house, you don't remove the door and go with it. So a meter belongs to that house. So you move, if you're moving within the same franchise area, of course, there will be a way you can get credit for that, then they provide you with another meter. That is on, let me just quickly please, so that I don't, because the other issue which Kola mentioned is on local content. Professor Frank is here, he's our local content commissioner. We always make fun of him, he's passionate about it. But let me just say, as a commissioner, local content is very important to us. As a matter of fact, we have a regulation on local content. And in this MAP regulation, we provided 30% of the local meter volume must come from local meter manufacturer. Volume, meaning that if you are a meter if you are MAP and you're supplying meter, 30% must come from Nigerian local manufacturer. And we say that is not final. We are going to assess the capacities of the local manufacturers. As the capacities increase, like Kola said, then we'll improve the local content. Probably in 5-6 years, we'll have 90% of our meters produced locally. So we are passionate about that, and we are going to make sure that local manufacturers are encouraged. The other point, smart metering, you mentioned. Sorry if I'm taking more than my 10 minutes. Smart metering. We came out with a regulation on smart metering. The reason is that we wanted to take advantage of technology, to leverage on technology. We realized that meters within the industry are old meters. They are not the smart like he was. I'm not an engineer, but I know the smart metering is something you can communicate, you can get data, you can get information. So the commission felt it's good, let's come out with a regulation that will give a guide to the industry for distribution companies who want to fix meters. They should procure smart meters. Those smart meters are going to ensure energy accounting. They will provide transparency. People will be happy. There will be improvement in the revenue. Now, like I said, when you try to solve one problem, you create another. There's energy theft. There's meter bypass. Whether the two of them are the same, whatever, it's still the same. Now, let me just say something about energy. And Prof is here. Next week, a team from NAM is going to Ghana because we got a company who actually are devising a kind of meter that can detect energy theft. you know. So they came, made a presentation, and we felt what they are showing is good, so our team are going to Ghana to do that. But let me just say something about meter bypass or energy theft. It's beyond regulation. It's beyond enforcing the regulation. It's beyond technology. There is no amount of technology, amount of check that you will do to eliminate energy theft. But there are things you can do. And it has to do with our moral psyche as Nigerians, just like the issues we have with corruption today. If you want to know the rate or the caliber of people that bypass meters or steal energy are the top guys. Those ones you think will never do that, not the small people. So it's a problem of a society. And every one of us who is hearing it has a responsibility to stop energy theft. If you know your neighbor is bypassing meter, if you don't talk, you are paying for his energy, whether you like it or not. That's what is happening, because the loss factor is being calculated in the tariff and you are paying for it. He's getting extra energy. You are here. You say, I don't want trouble. You are getting trouble even if you don't talk to him. So we have a responsibility to talk about theft. We brought out an order to penalize energy theft, but it's not enough. A few weeks ago, there was a bill that was presented on the floor of the House of Reps about criminalizing estimated billing and ensuring prepaid meters. And when we saw that, we went to meet the sponsor, the main sponsor of the bill, and said, sir, we already have this MAP regulation. The issues that you have will be addressed in this. We said, if you go by that route, there will be chaos in this industry. We will ask one question. We say it's already in the different regulation. Then we told you something. We said, sir, if there's anything you can help us do in this industry today as a lawmaker, please help us criminalize energy theft and meter bypass. Because that one, if one organ who thinks he's organ, he bypasses meter and he's caught, he's not just paying 2 million. He will go to jail even if it's for 1 week. It will be in record. He cannot contest for election because he's gone to jail. That is the kind of laws we want. But what I just want to say is that honestly, he was happy with our contribution and he said they are going to look into it. The thing is that we really like what they are doing because they are bringing to fore the suffering of people to all Nigerians, because they have a voice, they have constituents to go back to. And remember, 2019 is by the corner. They have to show their people they are doing something. So this is a wake-up call for all of us in the industry to do something about theft.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think it's a very energized panel, and you can actually feel the pulse of the people. Well, I think in a sense you've already led us into the next session, which is actually to discuss some of the issues which we have raised. I think something which comes out to me strongly here is I almost fear we may have a consensus around, yes, meters will save NESI, but I think with the comment from Mr. Shatti, it was a qualified view that, well, yes, meters can play a part, but maybe it's not the entire solution. But in all sense of honesty, I think that also came out somehow from the other panelists. If I can recall well, Mr. Balogun was of the opinion that there are many issues, from installation issues to infrastructure issues, and he also picked on process issues. So that was quite interesting to me, because as a meter manufacturer, he has not just limited himself to providing the asset, but also thinking through what can be done. And I think he first mentioned the smart metering solution as an approach to this. And also communication, customer disco communication. I think that also, it came out from Engineer Peter's conversation as well, that maybe there's a suspicion among customers around the true intentions of actually getting this meter. But to boil all of this together, I think the essence of why we are here is to at least go away with some kind of maybe education, updates on how to move this forward. And the burning issue I think we have on the table now is that there is a regulation the Meter Asset Provider Regulation, and this regulation is to speak to the issue within NESI. Now, two things. The regulation is a bit, looking at the timelines. The timelines are going to be finished in 120 days from the 3rd of April, which means, that's 1st of August, something like that. So every minute, every disco person is on here, should be on the field perhaps, running around to see how to meet that regulation. For Engineer Peter, this will mean a lot of things, so there are some capacity element. How ready is NEMSA, all right, to actually, go through the process of certifying these meters, ensuring that, the meters does not further accelerate the problems, so because I suspect, there might be an avalanche, of, meters in the warehouse, and you really would have to speak to, at least have a way to ensure that these meters are certified. So can you please speak to us what your views are with regard to the MAP and also your organization's readiness in this regard?
Thank you very much. I want to tell you we have 3 meter test stations. One is always available to carry out the type test, at the same time do the routine test. The other 2 actually can do routine tests. In terms of capacity of dealing with the amount of volume of meters that will come, I can tell you we can actually meet the challenge, because presently now what we have is that most of the meter test stations are idle because the meters are not there, so we just maintain just one shift. But if the volume of meters do increase, definitely we need to actually rearrange our procedures and processes. Our standard operating procedure we have to change, and we ensure that we can keep to the pace of the volume of meters that are coming, because also the meter test station can test 5,000 meters in a day with 3 shifts, and Kaduna can equally test because Kaduna has been expanded. Port Harcourt, we are doing the remodeling this year, and as we are doing all this modeling, we are acquiring new equipment to add to the equipment we have, which we are equally maintaining in readiness for the explosion of the meters that will come.
Okay, that's nice. Sorry, just to also do justice to that comment, you mentioned a follow-up. You also have a system in place to follow up on meter deployment. So the easy part is taking a sample of the supplied meters and testing. What about following the meter installation, meter deployment? Because going by the statistics that we got from Mr. Shatti, we expect that the electrification, the metering gap is so huge, and this may involve your team going to all nooks and crannies of the country. So what exactly is that process? How are you conceiving your solution to this issue?
Well, first and foremost, we need to ensure the quality of the meters are leading laboratory. When the meter gets to the field, that's a different issue entirely. If there are challenges with the meter that have not been deployed on the field, we equally deploy our men to go and do what we call on-site verification. But the first and foremost is to ensure that all meters that will be deployed will have passed through routine tests. They will have been checked out, will have given the quality assurance that these meters actually have met all the requirements. So when you deploy them, they are going to perform or do that service they are to do. The follow-up is going to be patches of issues or problem. Maybe 1 or 2 people are complaining, just like what is happening now. Then we deploy them to go and check. It's not as if the total number of meters you deploy and total number of meters you are going to follow up unless there are challenges.
Okay, thank you for that update. Mr. Balogun, you actually spoke about smart metering and a lot of issues around how smart metering can address some of the issues we have within NESI. I think the conversation has always been at what cost, because ultimately if you're investing in an asset, you're looking at the asset to deliver value. If we have some class of customers who are, maybe we call the R1 class of customers who, by definition, they should consume less than 50 kilowatt hour a month. If you do install a smart meter for that particular customer, you don't ever recover the cost of the meter. So this is begging a question that it's a nice approach to have at the back of our mind, but there perhaps could be other solutions. So as MEMCO, right, and I believe you are also a licensed MEP?
Potentially. Hopefully.
Potentially, okay. So I think this pairing was also strategic. Right. So let's actually get your views on this, because I think all approach really to the situation should be welcome until we're able to save NESI by ITER somehow.
Okay, sincerely, it's not all customers are prone to have smart meters, especially the rural people or less privileged in terms of revenue status. Because somebody who is using 5 farm load or 10 hams load, you don't expect such a person to have a smart meter. But most of the meter can be smart ready. There are simple devices like infrared or optical probe that the disco will be able to go to the premises at a distance of 100 meters. They will be able to pick the load and transmit it to the billing center. So they will be able to do their due diligence at the end of the month. What we are trying to do is to establish due diligence in terms of both load consumption and revenue collection in terms of revenue to be able to balance the equation. That's why we are advocating for near smart, if not complete smart. But the urban city where the revenue, the potential of people who are willing to pay can pay for smart, at least all those areas, and that's where energies are highly consumed. So all those urban cities should be reinforced. And one important element in the transaction cycle that we need to pay attention to is the issue of outsourcing or retailing process. For instance, an estate into their into an enclosure, and they now have one dedicated transformer. Some of them even pay higher value, higher tariff, more than the people on the public transformer. I think we need to review our tariff structure to favor retailing process. With that, it will equally help bridging the process of energy reconciliation or energy accountability. Because for instance, it means we can actually trade from the transformer point if there is a tariff structure that favors my internal investment. So I can pick up a transformer in the street, do an overhauling and ensure that it's good and I'm tidy up all the network. But what am I gaining by doing that transaction? And that's why the tariff structure must favor that kind of business. If we have a retailing structure, I can go extra mile, employ people to make sure that they go into each or every house of everybody to make sure that nobody steals electricity. And those are things that we need to put in place. Okay. Because from manufacturer perspective, we have all the technology that will reduce energy theft. Bypass is a minimum approach for the consumer. They bypass from the cable even before the power gets to their premises. So they can go extra mile, dig a duct and put a cable through in order to bypass or put it through their ceiling. So it requires a due diligence for the transformer. That's why I keep saying energy auditing process must be put in place from the distribution substation. Because with that, you'll be able to see at a glance view from the dashboard whether you are collecting efficiently from transformer point.
Okay, thank you very much for that input. But I think from a general, looking at it from a high level point of view, I think some of your comments actually is what led into the MEP regulation as conceived by NERC, because ultimately there will be the MEP, which is the meter asset provider, and there will be the MSP, right, the meter service provider. And I'm sure part of the function of the MSP should be ensuring that the meters are reading accurately, that the meters, the quality of the assets are what they should be. Well, you have mentioned something twice, which is energy accounting, and I think it's helpful to just, throw a little bit of light on that. In your earlier comment, you mentioned that it's sometimes the case that a customer pays in a month, maybe on a prepaid meter, and hasn't consumed the energy in that month, and then but DISCO perhaps records that collection in the month, and then the month where the energy is eventually consumed, the collection drops. Well, I can't speak for all the DISCOs, but it's not necessarily the case with Abuja, because you know, it's one against accounting principles. You know, you must match, you know, the costs within the period you earned the revenue. So there's an accounting process, you know, to deal with that. But we went a bit further in terms of process. So we found out that even though the meters, prepaid meters, are not smart, you actually can still read prepaid meters and get the energy consumption. So you don't take all of the value that was vended in the month as revenue. So our marketers go on the field and then they read, they punch the code, they read the energy, and then that is the energy we match with collections. Otherwise, the ATC and Cs will never reconcile. So there are some, you know, maybe manual approaches, if you like, to the issues on the table. But still carrying on in that vein. If I can put you on the spot, Mr. Shate, you know, what do you think is the biggest risk to the MEP regulation in your view?
Well, you know, one of the challenges is actually ensuring that the MEPs are able to get financing that will help them provide the meters and also get their monies back. And like I said earlier, we took time on the side of the financing aspect because what we want to, you know, the bank has said that meter is not an asset that you bring for collateral. Because they said, for what use is meter? Because they cannot take it to do anything, it's just for energy. So what they were interested in is the assurance of the cash flow of their money, their investment coming back. And that was what we took time to do. Because if that is not taken care of, the whole exercise will not work. There will be no meters. Another thing that we need to make sure is handled is that it's not just enough just saying financing. You have to make sure that it's reasonably cheap. Remember, every cost that people incur, you are a distribution company, the consumers pay for it. Eventually it comes to either the tariff or whatever thing that you're paying for. So the intention is not to increase the cost of meter, but as a matter of fact to reduce it with the help of technology and having cheaper phones and the rest of them. So with that, we'll be able to get cheaper meters for people to actually be able to have on their walls and be able to account for the energy they are consuming. Now, the other issue, the other risk is proper implementation of the MEP itself. You know, I said something about regulation. You can have regulation. Today in Nigeria we have laws, but those laws, how enforceable, how implementable are they? We've come out with an MEP regulation. Fantastic. People are hailing us, our heads are becoming well swelled. I mean, we're happy we've done something. But that is just the beginning of the real issue. We have to ensure that the MEP regulation is implemented to the letter. To ensure that the yearning of people, and you said something about the 120 days people are on their toes. We want people to get meters. There are over 4 million unmetered customers today. We want them metered in the next 3 years. 4 million meters today cost about 200 billion to deploy. It's not a small amount of money. And that is the reason why we had to get the World Bank, AFDB, CBN to see how they would get funding, because these developmental institutions have cheaper funds that they could give potential MEPs that qualify to be able to procure those meters and provide to Nigeria. So first and foremost, the financial viability of the MEP regulation itself is key. Without it, forget about it. Secondly, we have to make sure that we implement the regulation to the letter and enforce where enforcement is required so that we should be able to achieve the desired goals.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. So, but in stretching the conversation just a little bit, I think if we look at the value chain, you know, it all starts from generation, transmission, you know, distribution, and ultimately the customer sits at the far end. So the question to you also, sir, Mr. Shati, is, you know, the MEP regulation is looking at accuracy and improvement in measuring electricity at the consumption point, right? But there's an entire, you know, value chain. Was there anything while the MEP was being discussed that actually contemplated that could this metering approach be extended to, like Mr. Kola said, maybe the distribution transformers? Because maybe proper energy accounting is the key. Otherwise, how do you even know the MAP? The meters deployed by the MAP, right, are reading what they should read. There must be another meter to aggregate total energy consumption and check against. So how far-reaching, is the MAP as conceived, or is this flexibility with the DISCOs and the MAPs as within the willing buyer, within willing seller system?
No, to address your point, the MAP specifically is to address end-user meter requirements. We talked about energy accounting and the rest of them. And we always meet with the distribution companies and say, look, as a business person, there are key things you need to do if you are serious about your business. First and foremost, you have the distribution. I'm not an engineer, but I know the distribution transformer. Try and find out which goes to people's houses. Try and know what amount of energy have you received on that transformer. You need a meter. Now, they have been providing meters. Is it adequate? No. But they are doing that with the enumeration that they are doing. One of the requirements is that you have to also do that audit, to energy audit, to determine, okay, this distribution transformer consumes X, or there's X amount of energy that passes through this transformer. It is your responsibility to know that. And because there are not as many as the small little ones, that is something that still rests with the DISCOs to do. And they've been trying to do that to provide transformers at all those distribution ends. And we told them, when you are able to know the energy that comes to a transformer, then you can follow the energy, like they said, follow the money. It goes to this house, but that house doesn't have a meter. It goes to this house has a meter. And what distribution companies do today is that they already know the energy that comes at that distribution transformer. Now what they do is that if the street that transformer supplies has 20 houses and 8 have meters, they have accountability of that 8. They will give you your bill based on the energy you consume because of what your meter says. The remaining 12, what they do is that if you receive an energy worth 500,000 for that transformer, and those with meters could only take away maybe 100, what you do with the remaining 400, you sit down and divide it by the number of 12 people and start giving them bills. So that is largely what happens. I mean, you are in the distribution outfit. So now, that is why somebody said something very, very funny. He's a DG of an organization in Nigeria. Of course, a DG is a big man, like my brother here, Peter. But he said his driver who lives in Maitama, in Masaka or so, Maraba, that side, pays more than him. He has a meter, he lives in Maitama. He has a meter, but his driver, poor driver who lives in Maraba, is paying more than him. Why? Because this man can account for his energy. That man there cannot. So the issue is not with the distribution end. They are actually working on the distribution end. They know what the energy is, mostly, largely. But the one that goes to people is what we are concerned about. And we are talking about revenues here. We are talking about improving liquidity. The customer is the one that pays for this product. If he's not happy, it's either he doesn't pay, or he bypasses, or he does all kinds of things. Because he believes you are cheating him. If you're just bringing anything, last month is 20,000, next month is 50,000, you are cheating me. I don't know what I'm consuming. So what I will do, I will start changing. Or I will bring my welding machine and hide it somewhere and start eating. So the key problem is, we know is with the consumers. You want to stop consumer apathy. We want people to be happy, to be able to pay for their energy. When somebody is happy, he pays for the product, and the DISCO gets his money. But if he's not happy, he will devise all kinds of means. So the issue is that the MMP is to address end user meter, because we believe that the distribution transformers and the other bigger ones, there are not many, and there are things that can easily be handled.
Right. Thank you very much. I think it's a convenient point to throw the question now, questioning session to the floor.
I just want to say something. By October 1st Nigeria will be celebrating 58th birthday or her independence. Now, why do we have off and on power supply in Nigeria? I mean, electricity, power supply of electricity in Nigeria, because we understand that we have the you guys have the responsibility of giving us light or power, but we also have the responsibility of meeting up by paying for our bills and the rest of it. And then, like you said already, you have places where you just bring any kind of bill. Don't you think you're robbing them of some kind of, I mean, by imposing some, because I see that you impose, because number one, your government, and number two, they are people, I mean, they're citizens. And then they get to receive these bills. Some people don't object, they just, that's why you have these corruptions around the PHCN sector. Then my concern is, are we going forward or are we going backward? Because first, you see that when you have this kind of, you have people boycotting these bills. I mean, by boycotting the lights. You see that sometimes they boycott and you say they pay fine of 45,000, and they just call the PHCN staff or whoever and just say, okay, take this 10,000, reconnect me, and then you get to reconnect them back. Now, how do you fight this corruption within the PHCN?
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Muntasir. Yes, I work with Mahmoud Esen and Co. Not from you raised the issue of the bill by the House of Reps, sponsored by Honorable Femi Bajaber-Miller. Yes, though from what you said earlier, you met and there were issues raised by NEC. But I'm sure yesterday there was the same bill went into discovery yesterday, and I followed it religiously. And believe you me, the same issues or the same issues rather, yes, raised when the bill went into first reading was the same issues that were raised in discovery yesterday. So I believe you need to go back again, speak to him for the interest of the sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gloria Gema. I work for the International Center for Investigative Reporting here in Abuja. My question is to the man from NEC. I want to ask, who is responsible for installing transformer? Is it the citizens or the NEC?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think it's please, your name and straight to the point, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chukwuka J. I'm from MBT. My question goes to Commissioner Shetty. There have been several schemes, such as the CAPMI, that failed to provide meters to the consumers. And the general perception is that it didn't work because of the discos. So with this new MAP regulation, are the discos willing to work with both NEC and MAP?
Okay, thank you very much.
To meter, they could not meter. Now, this new regulation is welcome. If you are saying that the meter will be owned by discos and they will pay for by customers, then they will disconnect. If you pay something, you own it. If you finish paying here, I move here. So, and if there's a bad meter, then ownership comes into play. Also, about the issue of power theft before it gets to the end user. The regulation that you've made is a start. I think the people who are interested in power theft before the end user could sponsor a bill or ask for amendment so that we can take care of everything here, because ownership is also important. You have bad meters. If you're going to be billing people, then you should own the meters. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now, Kingsley, I mean, your question, like at least you had the moment. I think if we dwell on that, we will be here for the next 2 hours. I think it's better for us to just dwell on what we are discussing here today. And I'll go to Muntasir, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Now, you talked about the bill. What you need to understand, you have to understand the workings of the National Assembly.
How bills are presented. When you present a bill, there's a first reading. Then you come and present the second reading. There will be a time for public hearing. And what he told us is that right now it's late to go and withdraw it.
And it wasn't as if he even wants to change it, but he says, let the process go on. When it is time for the public hearing, somebody like you and every other person that thinks that bill is not proper should come to the public hearing and air his views. It is at that point that they will now aggregate what the feelings of the public is. Right now, somebody sat down and crafted a bill and then presented it on the floor. And the normal procedure is that it has to go through those channels. But it has not gotten to a level whereby, for me or the commission to now go back to him and say, look, what we told you didn't do. He actually told us that he really understood what we were saying. He believes there is a way they can make some amendments or changes, but let us just wait until it gets to the public hearing and then you take care of that. So it's still not too late, please. I know I watched it too, and you say, why is this thing going on? But that's just the process. Gloria talks about the responsibility, who is responsible for installing transformers. It's as the same question as saying, who is responsible for giving you meter? The responsibility is that of a discos. So a disco has the responsibility to provide transformers. It's an aberration where the disco will tell you, or will say, I don't have, go and provide, and the rest of it. That's not the proper thing. And in such a situation, you can always come to the commission and lodge a complaint, because the distribution companies have a responsibility to provide transformers. So there's no two ways about that. They have a responsibility to provide meters. We are just trying to help them provide the meters. Okay? So Chukwuka talked about CAPMI versus MAP. Or there was CAPMI. We brought CAPMI to give opportunity for people who have money to actually buy their own meters and have their own energy. But like you rightly said, along the line the process was frustrated. People made payments and they've not gotten meters. Till today, yesterday I got an email from, because we created an email, CAPMI, people with complaints who have paid for meters and they've not been supplied under the CAPMI regime, to send such complaints to us, and we'll follow up with the discos. We had a meeting with the CEOs of discos, I think it was last month or so, and some of them admitted that yes, they have actually collected money from people and have not been able to deliver the meters, but they promise they are going to do that. We have wind down the CAPMI because why? The MAP takes care of what CAPMI was trying to solve. The MAP says you can go and procure meter. And let me just say something about ownership of a meter. I mean, I know it's an issue. I said earlier that in our earlier metering code, the ownership of the meter rests with the disco. Because why? He buys the meter and earns return on it. In MAP regime, the ownership doesn't reside with the disco. It resides with the MAP, because it is the MAP that bought the meter and installed it for you. Until when you are fully paid, that asset is his, quote unquote. Where you as an individual buys the meter, it's in your house, quote unquote, you own it. But I said here, you can't move the meter. Now you talked about when there's an issue, when you read the MAP regulation, we have taken care of who is going to maintain, what happens if your meter gets spoiled, within how many days are you supposed to get your meter, and all those things. So it's not when you own it that you can now carry it and go and start repairing it. You can't do that. Because yes, it may be on your wall, but you don't have the right to go and tamper with the meter, because it's also one of the issues that we need to address. You can't just go and start to, it's my own. And that's why I want to disabuse the mind of people from, it's my own. Because when it's your own, it's like a car. You can drive to my Maitama, you can decide to drive to, but that is not the case with meter. Meter is, when you install it, if you remove that meter, the only thing you can use it for is energy. You can't use it to measure water that comes into your house. So this ownership thing doesn't change anything. The key thing, like I said, for a consumer or a customer, all he wants is an instrument that reads the energy he consumes and he's ready to pay for it. If you tell him it's his own, what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. He doesn't have access to it. He can't open the meter. The person that installed the meter will come and do it. Remember, when you buy the meter from MAP, the amount of money you are paying will include the cost of servicing that meter. So MAP has a responsibility to service that meter for you. So there's a lot to do with disabusing your mind from my own. And that is why in the regulation we also say that if you are moving within the same franchise area, you are not taking the meter, but the credit that you have on that meter, your distribution company or your MAP will take care of it in the new meter they are going to provide for you. If you are moving outside that franchise area, and the engineers will bear me witness here, there is a problem with configuration, there is a problem, you will not be able to even read some of the meter. So what we say is that you can talk with the MAP from where you are living to buy the meter, they can take it back. But you see, the most important thing is that when you're buying a meter, just know that this is part of the house. This is part of the house. So I think I've addressed those questions. If I've missed one,
I think you have addressed all of them. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Okay, can we carry on with the round of questions?
My question is to the Commissioner from NAC. In the MAP regulation, there's a clause that says NEC is going to release an order on estimated, to cap estimated billing within 120 days of the commencement of the regulation. My question is, the order, is it going to follow up with a framework on how this this estimated billing capping is going to go? I mean, similarly to what is existing as the billing and estimation methodology, or is going to be like a fresh one? Or what's it going to be like?
My name is Emmanuel Chukwu, Minister of Power. My first question goes to the Commissioner from NEC. Yeah, I've attended some meetings in NEC, and I see them, just strengthening the discourse. However, till date, I've not seen any of the erring discourse being sanctioned. I think NEC should sit up and do something, because I don't want them to be seen as a two-leg bulldog. They keep backing and they will never bite. Secondly, on the issue of smart metering, I feel that the discourse are not ready for smart metering. One, because they need to deploy technology to their transformers and distribution substations to be able to detect and work with smart metering. However, this is the same discourse that are yet to improve the network. Where would they get money to buy equipment for such things? So please, we need to have a rethink. Thank you.
We'll start by saying that the Commissioner from NEC and all the members of the panel have done so much to explain what is going on in the power sector. I must put two caveats here. Number one is that I'm a power illiterate. So I really don't understand kilowatts, megawatts, and all that talk. What I simply understand, and the question I've been asking, and I asked this question when I was in the Federal Executive Council, how many hours of power do I get so that I can plan for the hours I don't have? I don't understand megawatts, I don't understand kilowatts. I just understand that I don't have power, and I want to understand it from my own perspective. Is it 5 hours a day? Is it 7 hours a day? At 4,000 megawatts, does it guarantee us 3 hours of power in every neighborhood? So I need to get it now, so for you to explain it to me. Now, the second issue is the issue of metering and transformers. So now, I have 3 transformers. In my office in Karimu in Abuja, Abuja Disco made me buy a transformer. I refused to give me any credit to recover the money we spent in buying the transformer. They provided the contractor. They chose the person that would bring the transformer, and they installed it, and I have no credit for it. In my village, I have a transformer in my house. That transformer services also my neighbors. And now, what they simply do is, like you said, they refuse to bring meters to those people, so they calculate how much the transformer does, send about 60% to me, who live in Abuja, who come only maybe once a month. So they send about 60% of the bill there to me, and come up with something about, some funny amount. At some point they said I was owing them like 2 million or something. Now, I have a third transformer in another office where EEDC refused to connect us. So I bought the transformer, they brought the people that came to install the transformer, and have refused to give me credit, and nobody to report to. Now, when I had an issue in the second transformer in the village, they refused to go and fix it because I protested about the estimated bills they were giving me in my house. 2 separate transformers.
but they were punishing me for that transfer. So yes, no, I thought these are issues I'm raising. I thought I'm raising issues here. Because some of these are questions are academic. I'm raising the real life issues. So the questions are obvious. The questions are obvious from this. I think there is a weakness of regulation. And I am very happy and excited at listening to the commissioner because I hear his passion, I hear the clarity of his thoughts, but there's some weakness in regulation. The whole idea of metering is confusing to me because I've always thought that every Nigerian businessman loves to collect their money upfront. So the telcos are collecting prepaid, charges. Why is the discos not interested in collecting their money upfront? Because prepaid gives you money, upfront, and the postpaid gives a lot of debt mounting for you. So I can't understand the logic of the agreement why they are resisting it. So on a final note, my point is the cost of generating power with my generator is the maximum anybody can charge me for power. I think the regulation of the power sector pricing is a misplaced priority. We have alternative that can bring them down to the level below what the generator costs us. So I think that we should also look at pricing in a more flexible manner because already the market has already priced power. The cost of generating it is the maximum price you can ever charge for power in Nigeria. If you go beyond my generator, I will disconnect their line and go back to generator. So I think we need to begin to be more, if there are issues, I've heard a lot of issues here, we need to become more proactive in solving these issues and look for fundamental solutions. Thank you very much.
I'm glad that I finally got the chance to speak. The reason I came here is to ask how long will the customer wait between requesting for meters and when they would come? In October of last year, I requested for 6 meters, for prepaid meters for a building in Lisboa. As I stand, none is there. So my commercial building is just standing there. I don't see anybody in Abuja who will move into a house without light. And if I switch on lights without meters, I will get these bills that will run me aground. So I need to know that. I was going to start from what do you expect to gain? What is the impact? What is the objective of this kind of dialogue? Maybe it's for us to understand you more, but I cannot understand why 6 months after request and some numbers from the organization, I still don't have meters.
Thank you.
Let me just say something about somebody asked a question about liquidity and ring-fencing. How different is it from what is happening now? It's different. What is happening now, the discos have access to their money. When customers pay, they pay into an account, and then what happens is that they now decide what they want to pay the generals. Of course, there's a charge which we call names form that is being charged to their account. They don't have access to that. They have access to their money to do their operations. Now, what we are trying to do with this is to say that for an MAP, you sit down with a disco and agree on what kind of security you are going to give me. And one of it is this ring-fencing we talked about. Your bankers, as the money is coming, remember in the MAP we said for every meter that is installed, you will see 2 lines of bills or charges. There's the one for energy and there's the one for the meter. The one for the meter goes straight into that ring-fence account. Now the one for the energy goes to the disco. Remember, disco is the single point whereby you make payments or whatever. Now, again, the MAP will have a kind of mirror view of the vending platform of the disco. So in his own office, he already knows that this month, I have seen this amount of money that has come in. That is my money. And you go, the bank is going to pay you that money. The disco is obliged to pay that regulation or order. Now, what does that mean? You see, because we still want to take away this estimated billing thing, whereby DISCOs will just estimate what they want to estimate. We said we will make sure that certain levels of customers cannot be charged beyond a certain amount of money. Meaning that, for instance, if a customer who vends 2,000 in a month, his bill is estimated, or the cap bill for that category of customers will not go beyond 2,000. Now, if you think as a DISCO that this customer is actually spending more than 2,000, then you go and meter him. So the issue is that there has to be, it's not just saying, oh, the estimated billing is 2,000 for everybody. No, there has to be a systematic way of determining what category of people, depending on where they live, the kind of amount of energy that they consume, will now come up. Really, it may not be scientifically proven, but at least it gives a large, a better basis of doing it. And the essence of it is actually to discourage estimated billing, because now we have an opportunity to provide meters for people. Emmanuel talked about threatening of DISCOs and not sanctioning them. I think it's not fair for you to say we are not sanctioning them. You may say we are not sanctioning them enough. But the problem when you have an issue in an industry is, and I'm saying this generally, when there's an issue in an industry, people focus on the problem. Anything they see is not enough. Some people believe until we sack all the boards of directors of the DISCOs, we have not done anything. Some believe some people will need to go to jail. Strategically, in a way that we don't just do things and then you go to the court, or somebody takes you to court and then they say you don't have the powers, or you cannot do X, Y, Z, or solution whereby somebody is broken into, somebody's house is broken into. You see money, you say yes, he cannot afford that money, and then the noise all over the news, the media is, oh yes, they are doing this. And then when the case goes to court, they say you don't have a case here. That is what we want to avoid. And the commission had that experience. Before we came, there was an issue of a case that reversed tariff. What was the reason? They said the processes that the commission said they will follow to set tariff, we didn't follow it properly. So what we are doing is that we want to make sure that we've done our homework properly, so that by the time we start doing the ones that people will say, yes, they've started, we know nobody can shake. Now we have done something, we've penalized people, we fine people. But when you fine somebody, what happens after that? It's not just enough to fine. Yes, they will pay and continue. So there are certain things you have to look at. For those of you in regulation that have experience, you know that it's not just hammer and hammer. There are certain things that you need to look at. And we are doing all to make sure that we get the right strategy. And when we start doing that, nobody is going to come and say, oh, no, what you did is not right. Or somebody will go to court and start making noise. So that's the reason why you seem to see we are not doing anything. I've always said this. In an industry that is in trouble, you always talk about the regulator. What is the regulator doing? He's not doing this, he's not doing this. When everybody is comfortable, they forget about the regulator. When NCC, when we started having the, what do you call it, the telephone privatization, GSM, and there were issues. People were complaining here and there, we were paying so much. Just to get a line, we were paying 25,000. But gradually things become much smoother. Today nobody talks to NCC. NCC, oh, they are doing their job, that's all. Same thing with the petroleum industry. Osita we were together in Esomo. When there is scarcity, everybody becomes a petroleum engineer. Everybody has a solution. Oh, this government is not doing this. We are paying so much on subsidy. The moment there is no scarcity, everybody keeps quiet. So what I say is that, yes, we have issues in this industry, no doubt about it. But the issues are much. And Osita, just to answer your question, one thing, this industry is new. When I mean industry, the regulation side, the privatized power industry is new. The companies were privatized in 2013, November. We are about 3, 4, 5 years now. It's a new industry. We go to US, we go to Europe training, and they tell us some 80 years and the rest of them, they've been doing regulation. So we are still learning, we are still trying to, within the minor of so many things. I don't know whether you were here when I first said, when we were appointed, we say, yes, this power industry, because I don't have, like, we will make sure that everything works. We have all the strategies. We have professors, we have doctors. In fact, I'm not a doctor, but now if I go somewhere, they'll say Dr. Shadi, because we came with hot-headed, but by the time we sat down and settled, things are not the way they seem to be. There's a lot of things that need to be done. And I tell you, sometimes I go, I know you are a minister, you know the trouble sometimes, as commissioner in none. I don't know what the ministers, what the president are facing. I'm not going to face it. I believe that we will get there, but it's going to take time. We need to be patient. Power is important for this country. Without power, we will not develop. People need power. We know that, and we are working to make sure that that power is actually provided. Now, madam, you talked about how long is it going to take to install meters. It could take 5 years, even if we say 3 months. They've not been able to meet it, and that is why we came up with this regulation, because they don't have the meters. That's the truth. They don't have the meters. We have over 4 million customers today who don't have meters. The discos cannot provide the meters. That is why we say move that responsibility so that there will be somebody now whom in this regulation we say is going to install meter for you within 10 days. That when you apply that I need meter and your disco is satisfied, has determined the type of meter you need and everything, the MAP will supply you. And if you have any problem with that meter, it's not your headache. Your MAP is going to maintain it. If you spoil, he removes it. He has 2 days to replace the meter for you. Beyond that, if the fault is his, you will not pay the bill for that month. But if the fault is yours, then you'll be held responsible. So there's a way, there are certain things, you know, there are so many issues. And when you tackle them, they are all over the place. But gradually, when you focus on one and you're able to achieve a solution there, then you move to the other while you don't forget any other issue. So in a nutshell, that's just what I would say. Osita, I heard you. If I'm going to talk about my driver's license, I applied for driver's license.
It's always from two power dialogues back, which the one Patrick moderated, and he said people say in Nigeria the problem is we talk too much. But he actually was of the opinion that we don't talk as much, or we don't actually discuss the solutions as much. So the issues are many. You know, we'll keep gnawing away at the problem, one bite size at a time. Okay, we still have. We're able to take more questions. Please, let's take questions from the front.
I want to thank Nextier for this type of dialogue. I think the initiative which is very good for everybody. My name is Engineer Brian Usman from Manufacturers Power Development Company, which is a subsidiary of MAN, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Secondly, I want to ask the Honorable Commissioner, NAC, to whom does it report? Thirdly, I will want to say also that he has made a mention of something which is very, very important. The discourse have a responsibility of forwarding the money that they collect to the, for example, the GENCOs and so on and so forth. But they have not been doing it. Shouldn't there be an independent body collecting this money and distributing them according to the rules, like NBET, for example? NBET. Can't NBET do it so that there is no problem? Even the disco collects, if you look at the report from NBET now, a lot of money from the discos is not being remitted. And it's a whole value chain. If the GENCOs are not paid, we don't get the light. If the gas supplies are not paid, we don't also, the GENCOs will not operate. That means you must create a system which will ensure that money from the discos go to the right places that they are supposed to.
Okay, thank you.
The other issue also, I'm sorry to say, somebody did mention that NEC is a toothless bulldog. Do you agree?
Now, it's one thing to actually deploy these meters. It's another to actually deploy quality meters. So I wish to actually direct this question to the NEC Commissioner. under the map, are there actually provision, punitive measures to these providers for providing uncertified meters to the industry?
From SB/Nigeria Society of Engineers. My question goes this way: what are the procedures for private investors to take part in manufacturing and distribution of prepaid meters?
Yeah, mine is just a contribution. Since everybody's been asking questions, I just want to contribute. I want to commend the commissioner from NEC. He has been doing a great job. And I also want to commend the other panelists. I want to provide a solution which they already know, because they've been mentioning data, about 4 million. The NEC commissioner said we have a situation whereby people have applied for meters. About 4 million Nigerians have applied for meters. I think that's you said missing the gap, right? Yes. But my emphasis is about data analysis anyway. In the developed nations, we have what we call the meter database management system. You can actually, the discos can actually measure the amount of kilowatts of energy that goes to a particular estate, for example. And they can actually know who and who is not paying if they can know what a meter is consuming. Isn't it? Because if there's another example that said there's a street that has 20 houses and only 8 people were paying, 12 were not paying, so they had to meter they had to levy the other consumers that had meters. Now, the problem here is about data analysis. The discos can do monthly or annual data analysis on premises to know how much energy consumers are having in a particular area. Then they can be able to channel their energies on those that are not paying, because you have the data of those who are paying. And for the regulatory aspect of it, if NEC, for example, stands firm and asks the discos to provide for them at least annual data on consumption of data for those who have meters, for example, and then we can solve the part of those who have meters and then channel our energy on those who do not have meter, and see how we can eradicate what do we call the billing, the estimated billing. Thank you.
Gaji, I'm the head of gas for Nigeria Delta Power Holding Company. I have just 2 quick questions. One is for NEMSA. You are testing the meters. What exactly are you testing? Because from what I get, the information I get, sir, I hear that even the people that install the meters still go and adjust it so that you don't pay the right thing with this set of meters. So this testing now, what exactly is it? Is it going to reduce that, or what exactly is it doing? I would like to get some clarification. The second question, very quickly, is to NEC. Sir, Commissioner, I had the opportunity of having a chat with 2 or 3 of the CEOs or the MDs of the discos. And we got talking. A lot of areas in Nigeria today do not have light. Not primarily because of meters, but because those areas are assumed as people that will not pay bills. They will deal with officials, they will do different things where you go. For instance, in Goa and some other places in the country. Now, my question is this. I asked them, one of the panelists actually brushed that issue when he was talking. I asked them, why can't you allow some capable individuals to franchise some of your lines? These are feeders. If I am from Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, for instance, and I'm a son of the soil in Bayelsa, and you say this is a 33 kV line, which you have metered at the source, at the transformer, and I'm encouraged, I'm allowed to put some LCs or some credits on the ground for you as a disco, and you meter what is being given to me on that feeder, and I go around with my boys to make sure that people don't tamper with their meter, and I collect the money, and I get my small percentage on top. That would increase the rate of returns. What did the Tisco CEO tell me? They said, Steve, it will work, but who is going to pay for it? We are not ready to part with our percentage. How do we go from here? Because as a generating company, I have a quota to buy gas and generate power. And today, I have shut down a lot of my machines. NIPP will have 8 stations. Most of them are shut down. We can't generate power. Now, the DISCO has 25%, from which it's supposed to collect money. How do I get involved in how you collect your money? But we make suggestions. They will not drive with it. What is NEC going to do about this? Are they going to support them? Is there going to be a regulation that will help people? The DISCOs are too big. Can we break it down a bit? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Engineer Ibrahim talked about who does NEC report to. You know, NEC is a regulator, and the Act, the ESPR Act 2005, actually protected NEC or the regulator from interference. What we are required to do is that we send reports of our activities to the National Assembly and then to the Minister. According to General of the Federation, we send it to the National Assembly and then we send it to the Minister. That is how it works. Quote unquote, we are regulators that are independent, that should do our job without any interference from anybody. So it's not an issue of we report to somebody and that person tells NEC what to do. No, that's not the way they do. If there's anybody at all that you can say will be regulated or will be answerable to, maybe the National Assembly to some extent, because sometimes we go there to, they have oversight functions, they come and ask us questions, what are we doing and the rest of them. But to answer you, we don't report to anybody, not because we are too big to report to somebody, because there are checks and balances in the system. Like I said, if we do something that is not proper, of course the National Assembly can call us. We receive policy direction from the minister to tell us what to do. But anything that the minister tells us, we have to look at it in the light of the act and then try to implement them. If it's against the act, we'll do what is right. So that is an answer that I can give on that. And you said whether I refuse to answer the question whether we are toothless to bulldog. Yeah, I left that for you to decide. Joshua talked about uncertified meters, and there was a franchising bit of it that was included in it. But along the line, when we now started doing the consultation, we realized that that franchising area is another meat on its own. It's so big that we think can also help this industry. So what we did is to say, okay, let's handle the MAP, and then we come to the franchising. As a matter of fact, we started developing the concept papers on the franchising area. I mean, you talk with the CEOs, they will tell you all kinds of things. When we meet with them, they say they are waiting for the franchise. I agree with you. There are areas that they cannot go to. There are area boys who they call the sort of the ones that they can go and collect money, and then you as a disco, you just get your money without headache. So that we know is an issue, and the discos, it may not be all of them, but most of them really believe that that is going to unlock a lot of their problems. But let me tell you something, people always want to find excuses for whatever they believe. But the truth of the matter is that whatever thing that we think we have as an issue in this country, we have to come and provide solutions to it. The one thing I would just like to say is that we as regulators, is not just enough for us to churn out regulations. People will say, oh, provide this regulation. We have enough. It's just like Nigeria. We have our constitution. We have the laws of the land. But how do we implement those laws? How do we enforce them? That is the issue. And for us, in that, those are the headaches we go through. And to buttress your point, yes, people may see we are not, we don't have team. But let me say something, sir. I assure you, in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm sure you come and say, oh, now you don't even need anything because there's nobody to buy. I have light. Probably like Osita said, we are going to count hours. And just to buttress on that side, we've already started a study whereby we will be determining how many hours do people get really in a day. Because for an ordinary Nigerian, megawatt is not the story. I've been told to install and commission transformer or substation. That's not, he doesn't care. All he wants to see is light. How many hours will he get the light? And that is what we want to address, so that people can start assessing whether the industry is actually moving forward by the number of hours people get energy, and not just only energy, quality energy that they will be able to use to do what they want to do in life.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Yes, please, let's give it to Commissioner Shanti. I think he's had a more difficult job tonight, as expected. Please, Engineer Peter, can you please speak to the point of, so what exactly is NEMSA tested for in the meters?
Thank you very much. Actually, the person who asked that question is an engineer. We have the Nigerian military code prepared and produced by the regulator for the industry. That military code has specifications for the different type of meters. And those specifications have to be verified to make sure that that meter meets all the specifications. One, we have temperature, but the one that I think the general public need to be fully aware is the accuracy. The one that shows that the power that is supplied to you and what you have consumed, there is energy balance. And if somebody, after we have tested the meter, we say the accuracy is right, then and the meter gets to side. If somebody goes to willfully tamper with it and remove a part of it, NEMSA has no part to play in that. But beyond that, I want to equally still say that there's what we call calibration. If, for example, a meter is checked out during the routine test and they find out that there's non-alignment in terms of accuracy, they will do a recalibration of that particular meter and set it before it goes to the field. So it's the parameters that the code has actually specified that are being checked. But the one that the general public actually are fully waiting for is, am I paying accurately for what I consume so that I don't pay for what I do not consume, or the supplier gets his money for what they are supplying? So those are the things that actually we are testing. Removing apart from the meter relay, there is nothing NEMSA can do about that.
Thank you very much. I think at this point, I want us to just appreciate our panelists. I think they have done excellent job to I would say for the gentleman who's interested in going into meter manufacturing, you can kindly meet Engineer Kola after now. Meters are not essentially the silver bullet. There are many other issues. However, meter deployment is an imperative. I think if we can summarize it, it has to be that. Another key takeout for me is communication is essential. Within this room where we have the more informed members of the public, and we still have issues around communication and understanding intentions behind regulation, then we can then stretch it and expect, what the gap can be out there. So I think it's a lot of work for all the players within NESI to ensure that the communication gap is bridged. Both the players themselves, the regulator, everybody, because we all have a combined stake in the industry. Thank you very much. I'll pass it on to David now to close us out.
Thank you very much, dear moderator. Another round of applause for My name is David Arinze. I'm a business development consultant at Nextier Power. Alongside the Nextier Power team, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. We thank our sponsors, the MacArthur Foundation, our dynamic panelists, and our moderator, Bola Longe. A round of applause again, please. We thank you, our audience, so far. You have only experienced growth in every segment of the Power Dialogue, from the attendance to the topics that we have treated, to policies that have been advocated for, and opportunities we have opened for a number of people. All these marks of progress have been made possible by you all. To the members of the press, we say a big thank you. We are earnestly working towards a monthly dialogue that goes beyond presenting ideas for solutions to ensure that these commitments made on this platform are kept and solutions presented are being implemented. Thank you for participating. We have food and drinks on the foyer. Please continue to network and have a good time. To our host, Sandra Leo Hotel, thank you again. Thank you again, everyone, and to have a pleasant night. We celebrate you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Damien Ohiaman. I am the CEO and co-founder of New Genesis Energy. I would like to use this medium to thank Nextier Power for the monthly stakeholder dialogue that they've been having. And one positive outcome of the dialogue is the project that we're actually handling over in Ogun State. It was actually as a result of the multi-stakeholder dialogues that we got in touch with a project director from UNIDO, who then introduced us to senior executive staff members of the Ogun State government. And that was what allowed us to initiate the project in the state. So it was as a result of this forum that we were able to secure that opportunity to develop the technologies that we're seeking to develop within the state. So I would like to thank Nextier Forum in a very big way for facilitating that. And I hope that in the near future it is one of the success stories that we get out of this forum. So thank you so much, Nextier Power, for all of your help.